Could Washington's new peace diplomacy weaken the United Nations? Analysts are examining whether former U.S. President Donald Trump's attempts to position himself as a global peace negotiator could diminish the influence of the United Nations, which has struggled to resolve several ongoing international conflicts. Although no formal policy framework has been announced, diplomatic activity and messaging have increased in recent months. Supporters of Trump argue that bilateral negotiations and direct deals between state leaders can deliver faster results than multilateral forums, which often require extended consensus building. They also point out that the UN faces structural challenges, including veto power gridlock in the Security Council and limited enforcement mechanisms in areas of conflict. Critics, however, warn that bypassing established multilateral institutions could lead to parallel diplomatic systems that are less transparent and more vulnerable to geopolitical pressure. They argue that the United Nations, despite its shortcomings, provides legitimacy, verification, and legal frameworks that individual leaders cannot replicate on their own. Observers note that the UN has struggled in recent years to address conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, Syria, Yemen, and broader tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. Peacekeeping missions have faced resource constraints, and negotiations have stalled in several theaters. These challenges have contributed to a perception that unilateral or ad hoc diplomacy may produce quicker gains. Trump has repeatedly stated that he views conflict resolution as an opportunity for American leadership, while presenting negotiations as a form of deal-making. Analysts say this approach appeals to governments seeking fast agreements, but raises questions about accountability and international law. It also shifts attention from multilateral intermediary diplomacy toward high-level leader-to-leader contacts. Some governments remain supportive of UN-centered diplomacy. European Union officials and several Asian and African states emphasize that long-term stability requires broad participation, not just political bargaining between great powers. They argue that sidelining the UN could weaken norms around sovereignty, humanitarian access, and treaty verification. Experts also highlight the strategic dimension. If the United States takes the lead in brokering settlements, it may extract concessions unrelated to the conflicts themselves, shaping alliances and global influence at the expense of institutional neutrality. Rival powers such as Russia and China may respond with their own diplomatic tracks, intensifying competition rather than reducing conflict. For now, the situation remains fluid. There is no formal indication that Trump aims to dismantle or replace the UN system. However, a shift toward personalized, leader-driven diplomacy could redefine how international disputes are managed, especially if parties view institutions as slow, divided, or ineffective. The future of global conflict resolution may depend on whether states prefer institutional frameworks or power-centered bilateral negotiations. Analysts caution that both models may coexist, with the balance determined by outcomes on the ground and broader geopolitical calculations. More updates may follow.